Let's welcome in our NHL Network insider right now, Elliotte Friedman, officially on summer vacation. I like that, fresh from the pool.
I hope he's on vacation.
Yeah, as he should be, deservedly so after the last month he's had. Elliotte, we talked about the Leafs and all their additions recently to their already jammed up roster. We know what the salary cap is. We know they're over it right now. So what do you expect from them moving forward here?
Well, first of all, I think the one thing is if they don't make any other changes, it depends, and I think they will. It depends on Matt Murray's health. Like if Matt Murray and Jake Muzzin go on long-term injured reserve during the season, they do have the ability to get their roster under the cap. However, I think a lot of it depends on what Murray's health is. Is he healthy enough to play or not? And if he's healthy enough to play and they get Samsonov signed, then I expect they're going to do something with Murray in order to create that cap room. But I think the biggest thing on ice, Jameson and Bruce, is I think they're going to address their defense. I don't think they're done there yet. I think they're going to try to – I don't know if it'll be like a Ryan Reeves type on defense. I don't know if those players exist anymore. But I do think they are going to try to get longer, meaner, and nastier on the blue line. And I think kind of what could happen there is what is the thing that we're all watching for between now and the start of the season.
Well, yeah, I mean, if they want to get nastier on there, they could have a tough team. But one of the greatest things I think, Elliotte, about the Leafs is their speed and their scoring acumen. If they change more to the Calgary style with where Brad was, I mean, it'll be a lower scoring team, but probably play a little bit more defensively, don't you think?
Well, I think you're right, Bruce, and I think there's a couple of things here that are going to control all of that. And number one, and the top things among them are the contract situations for both Austin Matthews and William Nylander, who, as it stands, they're not signed after next season. Now, Matthews, I believe this summer will sign a contract extension, probably maximum 5 years. I think somewhere between 3 and 5 years Matthews will sign for. I think the Maple Leafs are very confident that's going to happen. I think it's going to happen at some point this summer. As yet, what we don't have is certainty with Nylander and what his future is going to be. I think they've engaged him a little bit in contract talks. I don't think we're anywhere close to have them getting finalized. And, you know, I think one of the big factors here with Nylander is, and Bruce, you've been in those rooms, you know, is that this is an alpha male world, the National Hockey League, and they compete on the ice and they compete off it too. And I think, you know, if Nylander is being asked to take a little bit less money, he wants to know that others are going to take less money too. And I just don't know if he wants to sign until he's convinced of that. And then I think it's the Leafs' decision. How do they feel with an unsigned Nylander, and what's that going to mean? So I think that, as much as anything else, could determine the future of their roster.
Well, you know, I had Michael Nylander, and he was a pretty stubborn guy. And, I mean, Nylander's last contract, he went right till December 1 or something. And so, I mean, I don't think it's going to be an easy job. And he didn't take a player's valued contract there. He went for the money in that last one, and I think the Leafs succumbed a little bit to it. But so it's going to be an interesting summer with those two guys going back and forth.
Yeah, no question about it. And look, I have no problem with anybody. Look, a contract negotiation, we all know how it works. I say I'm worth $11 billion, and my employer says I'm worth nothing. And the whole thing is to get yourself in the middle or find yourself a sweet spot. And I just, like I said, I think the biggest question with Nylander is right now is, as you said, Bruce, like it's not a team where a lot of people have, quote unquote, taken less. And some people feel you should, and some people feel you shouldn't. I mean, everybody out there has probably got a different opinion. And I just think Nylander's going to be careful about not taking his full market value if other players on the team do the same thing.
Sounds like Elliotte and I have the same agent, too. $11 billion and zero on the other
Zero,
end. Hey,
yeah.
Elliotte, speaking of agents, you reported earlier today that Vladimir Tarasenko, maybe the biggest free agent out there. Do you have to take that? That could be something.
No, don't tell anybody, but I'm just about to hang up on my wife.
Okay,
like, don't let anybody know.
She won't hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't blame us. But Vladimir Tarasenko changing agencies. What does that mean for his free agency that he's currently in the midst of?
Well, I think Tarasenko had a really tough time. I think he was disappointed by the market for him. And I should say this. I don't think this is all – like a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's the agent's fault. I don't necessarily believe that. I think that, number one, it's been a really tight market. Like you guys just talked about Toronto. Who would have thought a week ago that Tyler Bertuzzi would be signing for 1 year and $5.5 million? Like it's tight out there, really tight out there. And secondly, I always think as a player, you have to look at it and say, is there anything I could have done differently here that could have made myself a better option? And I do think that in this particular case, some teams have looked at Tarasenko's play the last couple of years and said, are we really sure about this? So I think that both player and agent have to take, it's not one person's fault. And even though there's going to be a new agent now, J.P. Barry and Pat Brisson, I don't think you can look at this and say, oh, it's all the last agent's fault. It doesn't work that way. What I think it means, though, Jameson, is that they basically start all over again. The new agents, they call the teams, they find out who's interested, they find out what was on the table, and they go from there. And I think Carolina was definitely interested. I've heard San Jose has interest in Tarasenko. I've heard at times that Nashville did. And I think also Ottawa, once the Debrincat trade comes down, I think they had some interest. But I don't think Tarasenko's found the market out there to be what it wants. And I don't think that's going to change. I think that one of the things that is going to happen here, though, is maybe they can find a new situation or a new team that he might want to go to.
Last thing for me, Elliotte, a guy that I had that had a lot of interest all year is Matt Dumba. And I mean, right
Yes.
up even to the trade deadline, they were talking, where's he going to go? They were going to move him. And then he was always at the top of the list or near the top of the list on free agent day. But I haven't heard anything, any interest in him whatsoever. Can you enlighten us a little bit?
A little bit, Bruce. I know that the Leafs talked to him. They couldn't make it fit. It couldn't work salary-wise, but I do think Toronto talked to him. I think Arizona has a roster spot open. I think Matt Dumba has a home in Arizona. I heard there's a connection there, and I think that he has a place there. And the Coyotes are interested, and so I think they have a spot for him. I don't know this for sure, but I've also suspected that maybe San Jose could have a spot for him there. San Jose's trying to trade Erik Karlsson. They're still talking to Carolina. They're still talking to Pittsburgh. At this point in time, it hasn't happened. I've kind of wondered if maybe Brett Pesce's situation gets cleared up in the Karlsson trade, whether it's either to San Jose, although he has some trade protection, or somewhere else to get the pieces that Carolina needs to make the deal. But I wondered if San Jose trades Karlsson, if it's possible that Matt Dumba could end up with the Sharks.
Interesting. Speaking of trades, you said something about a minute ago. Once the Alex Debrincat trade comes down, is that you hinting that you might know something on that front right now?
No, I as usual, Jameson, I don't know anything. I heard it was quiet today. I think they're really trying. I think they are. And I think if it is Detroit, I think a contract will get worked out there because he wants to play there. Detroit, we're going to find out tomorrow. Detroit might be putting Philip Zadina on waivers to terminate his contract. Now, from what I understand, the player is not going to contest this. So that might give Detroit even more room to work on something like this. And but I've heard, I've heard for a week now that everybody here is actively working on this. I don't think it's that far away. It's just sometimes the last hurdle is the toughest one to get over.
You mentioned the San Jose Sharks a number of times here. And speaking of hurdles to get over, it seems like it might be the biggest hurdle is dealing a guy like Erik Karlsson. We thought it might happen surrounding the trade deadline. It didn't go down. So then it felt like, okay, it could happen around the draft. It hasn't gone down. Where are we at as far as Erik Karlsson and maybe a new suitor for him?
Well, I think Carolina and Pittsburgh, I mean, if there could be other teams there, but if they are, I haven't heard them. I suspected Florida at one time. I'm just not sure they can actually do it. But I think Carolina and Pittsburgh are both interested. I think Pittsburgh, it's harder because Carolina has more cap room. But I think it's the battle of finding that sweet spot between the salary retention and the trade that gets made. And I do think at some point in time this is going to happen, Jameson. I think it's likely going to be one of those two teams. But again, San Jose, they want the sweet spot of the more they take in retention, the better a package they want. So it's tricky. And Pittsburgh would need a third team to do it. Carolina doesn't necessarily. But it's a tricky, complicated deal. But they're working away at it, and I do think it will happen at some time.
All right, a lot of moving parts. We'll keep you updated on all things offseason here on NHL Network. Elliotte Friedman from outside his house, now heading into the doghouse after ignoring his wife's call a couple of moments ago. See you, Elliotte.
You know what? I got a text message. Can you preheat the oven to 425? So I'm going in there.
Well, you might be hopping in it. I don't know. See you, Elliot. We'll talk to you all
Elliot, have a
summer.
great
Thank
day.
you.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys, take care.